The cold wind of Toronto cut through Keanu's jacket as he stood before his old high school. The year was 2144, and at 80 years old he looked more like a man in his 40s. The life extension treatments had been good to him, but they could not change the weight of all those years in his heart. He had not been back to this place in over 60 years. The red brick building looked exactly the same as it did when he was 17. Every window, every door, even the old flagpole in the front yard remained unchanged. The city had turned the school into a historical site after it closed in 2089. They kept it as a perfect copy of how high schools looked in the late 1900s. Today was the memorial service for his old drama teacher, Mrs. Collins. She had died at the age of 98, still sharp and funny until the end. Keanu had flown in from Los Angeles just for this. She was the one who had encouraged him to try acting. Without her, his whole life would have been different. The service had ended an hour ago. Most people had left, but Keanu stayed behind. He wanted to walk through the empty halls one more time. The building felt like a time machine. Everything was exactly as he remembered it. The same green lockers lined the walls. The same scratched floors squeaked under his feet. Even the smell was the same. That mix of cleaning products and old books that every school had. He walked slowly down the main hallway. His footsteps echoed in the empty space. Pictures of students from different decades hung on the walls. He found his own senior class photo from 1982. There he was, young and skinny with long dark hair. He had been so nervous about the future back then. As he turned the corner toward the old cafeteria, he heard a familiar sound, the soft swish of a mop moving across the floor. He stopped and listened. Someone was cleaning nearby. Keanu followed, the sound down another hallway. There, in the science wing, he saw something that made him freeze. An old man was mopping the floor with slow, careful movements. The man wore the same blue uniform that school janitors had always worn. His hair was completely white now, and his back was bent with age. But Keanu knew that face immediately. "Henry," Keanu called out softly. The old man looked up. His eyes were still bright and kind, just as Keanu remembered them. A huge smile spread across Henry's weathered face. "Well, I'll be damned," Henry said, leaning on his mop. "Keanu Reeves. I knew you'd come back someday." Keanu walked closer, still not believing what he was seeing. "Henry Martinez. What are you doing here? This place has been closed for decades." Henry chuckled, a warm sound that brought back memories of high school mornings. Someone's got to keep it clean, don't they? Can't just let a place like this fall apart. "But Henry, you must be..." Keanu tried to do the math in his head. "You were already in your 30s when I was here. That would make you over 90. Now, 94 next month," Henry said proudly. "Still got some fight left in me." Keanu looked around the spotless hallway. Every surface gleamed. The windows were crystal clear. The floors looked like they had been waxed yesterday. "You've been taking care of this whole building by yourself?" "For the last 55 years, Henry replied. "Started here in 2089, right after they closed the school. The city wanted to hire a whole crew, but I told them I could handle it. Been here ever since." "But why?" Keanu asked. "You could have retired decades ago. You could be somewhere warm, enjoying your golden years." Henry's eyes grew distant for a moment. He looked down the long hallway, past the rows of empty classrooms. "This place is special, Keanu. More special than most people know. Every kid who walked these halls had dreams. They had hopes and fears and big plans for their lives. That energy doesn't just disappear when the school closes." Keanu felt a strange chill run down his spine. There was something in Henry's voice, something deeper than simple nostalgia. "You always were different," Keanu said. "Even back then. You knew every student's name. You always had time to listen when someone was having a bad day. I remember when Bobby Chen was getting bullied, you made sure he had somewhere safe to eat lunch." "Kids need someone looking out for them," Henry said simply. "Even when they're all grown up, they need to know someone still cares about the place, where they learned to dream." Keanu looked at the old janitor more carefully. Despite his age, Henry moved with purpose. His hands were steady on the mop handle. His voice was clear and strong. There was something unusual about him, something Keanu could not quite put his finger on. How do you do it, Henry? How do you keep going at your age? Henry smiled mysteriously. I have good reasons to stay healthy. Important work doesn't wait for old age to catch up. They talked for another hour as Henry continued his cleaning routine. He moved through the building like he knew every inch of it. He told Keanu about the changes he had seen over the years. Politicians had come and gone. The city had grown around the old school. Technology had advanced beyond anything they could have imagined in 1982. But Henry had stayed constant, keeping the building perfect. You know what's funny? Henry said as they walked past the old gymnasium. I always knew you'd make it big. Even when you were just a quiet kid who kept to himself, there was something special about you. Something that made you different from the others. What do you mean? Keanu asked. Henry stopped walking and looked directly at him. You cared about people, really cared. That's rarer than you might think, and it's more important than you know. There was something in Henry's eyes that made Keanu feel like the old janitor could see right through him, like Henry knew secrets that went far beyond high school memories. As the sun began to set outside the tall windows, Keanu realized he had spent the entire afternoon with Henry. It felt like no time had passed at all, being in this place. Talking with someone who had known him when he was young brought back feelings he had almost forgotten. I should let you get back to work, Keanu said finally. Work's never done in a place like this, Henry replied. But I'm glad you came by. It's good to see how you turned out. Mrs. Collins would be proud. As Keanu walked toward the exit, Henry called after him. Keanu? Come back tomorrow if you can. There are some things I'd like to show you. Things about this place that might surprise you. Something in Henry's tone made Keanu turn around. The old janitor was standing in the hallway, backlit by the afternoon sun streaming through the windows. For just a moment, he looked like something more than just an elderly man with a mop. I'll be here, Keanu promised. Keanu returned to the school the next morning. He had barely slept the night before. Something about his conversation with Henry kept bothering him. The old janitor had seemed different somehow. Not just older, but changed in ways that Keanu could not explain. He found Henry in the basement cleaning storage rooms that looked like they had not been used in decades. The old man was moving heavy boxes like they weighed nothing at all. When he saw Keanu, he smiled and set down a box that should have taken 2 strong men to lift. You came back, Henry said. Good. We have a lot to talk about. Henry, how did you just move that box? It must weigh 200 pounds. Henry looked at the box, then back at Keanu. Maybe it's time I told you the truth. But first, are you sure you want to know? Some knowledge changes everything. Once you learn certain things, you can never go back to not knowing them. Keanu felt his heart beat faster. I need to know. Something's been strange about this place since yesterday. Strange about you? Henry nodded slowly. He walked over to what looked like an ordinary storage closet, but when he put his hand on the door, it glowed with a soft blue light. The door slid open silently, revealing a staircase that went down much deeper than any school basement should go. Follow me, Henry said, and try to keep an open mind. They walked down the glowing staircase for what felt like 10 minutes. The walls were made of some material that Keanu had never seen before. It looked like metal, but it seemed to move and shift slightly, like it was alive. At the bottom of the stairs, they entered a large circular room. The walls were covered with screens showing images from all over the world. Keanu could see other schools, libraries, museums, and parks. Each screen showed a person doing maintenance work, cleaning, organizing, fixing things. All of them were older people who moved with the same unusual strength that Henry had shown. What is this place? Keanu asked, his voice barely above a whisper. This is a monitoring station, Henry explained. One of thousands around the world. We watch over places that are important to human culture and memory. We? Who's we? Henry turned to face him. As he did, his appearance began to change slightly. His back straightened. His eyes became brighter, almost glowing. He still looked old, but there was something powerful about him now. My name is Henry, Martinez, and I have been the guardian of this school for 55 years, but I am not entirely human anymore. In 2089, I was chosen by beings from another world. They call themselves the custodians. Keanu felt dizzy. He sat down on a chair that seemed to grow out of the floor to catch him. Aliens? You're saying aliens are real? Very real, and they've been watching Earth for a long time. The custodians are peaceful. They travel from world to world looking for species that show promise. They've been studying humans for over a century. Henry walked over to one of the screens. It showed an old woman cleaning books in what looked like a library. That's Maria Santos in Brazil. She's been protecting the National Library in Rio for 40 years. And this, he pointed to another screen showing an elderly man tending a garden, is Chang Wu in Beijing. He guards the Temple of Heaven. But why? Keanu asked. Why are you all doing this? Because the custodians learned something important about humans. Most species they study are focused on power, territory, or resources. But humans are different. You create things that have no practical value. Art, music, stories, games. You preserve memories and traditions. You care about beauty and meaning. Henry turned back to Keanu. The custodians were amazed by this. They had never seen a species that valued culture as much as survival, so they decided to help protect what makes humans special. And they chose janitors and cleaning people to do this? Henry laughed. Think about it. Who sees everything in a school? Who knows every corner of a library? Who notices when something is wrong or when someone needs help? The people who take care of places see more than anyone else. We're invisible to most people, which makes us perfect guardians. Keanu looked around the incredible room. How long has this been going on? The first guardian was chosen in 1987, an old librarian in London named George Fletcher. He was dying of cancer when the custodians found him. They healed him and gave him a mission. Now there are over 10,000 of us around the world. What exactly do you guard against? Henry's expression became serious. Not all alien species are like the custodians. There are others out there who see human creativity as a threat. They believe that species should only focus on practical things like survival and expansion. They think art and culture make species weak. One of the screens changed to show images of dead planets, empty cities under alien skies, broken statues and burned libraries. These are worlds that lost their culture, Henry explained. The beings who destroyed them are called the erasers. They don't kill entire populations. Instead, they make civilizations. Forget why their culture matters. They attack memory and meaning. Once a species stops caring about art, music, and stories, they become empty. They survive, but they stop being truly alive. Keanu stared at the images of the dead worlds. And, they're coming here? They've been trying to reach Earth for decades. The custodians have been holding them back, but the erasers are getting stronger. That's why we need more guardians. That's why I'm telling you this. Me? But I'm not a janitor or a librarian. Henry smiled. No, but you're something else. You're someone who has spent his whole life being kind to people. Someone who gives away millions of dollars without expecting anything back. Someone who treats every person he meets with respect, whether they're famous or completely unknown. Keanu felt overwhelmed. What are you asking me to do? The custodians have been watching you for years. They know about every act of kindness, every moment when you chose to help someone instead of helping yourself. They want to offer you a choice. Henry walked over to a wall panel and touched it. The wall became transparent, showing the night sky above Toronto. But this sky was filled with lights that were definitely not stars. The custodians are here, Keanu. They've been waiting for the right time to make contact with someone who can help coordinate the Guardians on Earth. Someone who understands both the value of human culture and the responsibility that comes with protecting it. Keanu looked up at the alien ships hidden in the night sky above his home city. Everything he thought he knew about the world had just changed forever. What happens if I say yes? He asked. You become more than human. You become a bridge between the Guardians and the custodians. You help prepare Earth for what's coming. And if I say no? Henry's expression was sad but understanding. Then we'll find another way. But Keanu, I've been watching humans for 94 years. I've seen thousands of students grow up and make their choices in life. You're one of the few people I've met who truly understands that power should be used to help others. Keanu looked around the room one more time, at the screens showing guardians all over the world, at the images of the dead planets that had lost their souls, at Henry, who had given up a normal human life to protect something precious. How long do I have to decide? Not long, Henry said quietly. The erasers will make their move soon. With or without you, the battle for human culture is about to begin. Keanu spent 3 sleepless nights thinking about Henry's offer. He walked through his hotel room, staring out at the Toronto skyline, knowing that alien ships were hidden somewhere above the clouds. Everything felt different now. Every person he saw on the street, every building, every piece of art in the hotel lobby, all of it suddenly seemed precious and fragile. On the 4th day, he returned to the school. Henry was waiting for him in the main hallway, polishing the trophy case that held awards from decades past. I keep thinking about those dead planets you showed me, Keanu said without greeting. All those empty cities, all that lost culture. Henry stopped polishing and looked at him. It's hard to forget once you've seen it. That's the weight we carry. Knowing what happens when civilizations lose their soul. How do the erasers do it? How do they make entire worlds stop caring about art and beauty? Henry set down his cleaning cloth. Come with me. There's something else you need to see. They went back down to the hidden room beneath the school. This time Henry activated different screens. These showed Earth, but not the Earth that Keanu knew. The images were from different times and places, but they all showed the same thing. People, looking bored, empty, disconnected. This is from last month, Henry explained, pointing to a screen showing a busy street in New York. People walked by a street musician without even glancing at him. And this is from 2 weeks ago. The next screen showed a museum in Paris where visitors walked through art galleries staring at their phones instead of the paintings. It's already starting, isn't it? Keanu asked. The erasers don't attack with weapons or armies. They use something much more subtle. They spread a kind of mental infection that makes people lose interest in things that don't have immediate practical value. Art becomes boring. Music becomes noise. Stories become pointless. Henry touched another control, and the screens showed more disturbing images. Libraries with empty reading rooms. Concert halls with more empty seats every night. Art schools, closing because students stopped applying. But people don't notice it happening, Henry continued. They just gradually stop caring about anything that isn't directly related to work, money, or basic survival. They become like machines, functional but empty. Keanu watched a screen showing children in a playground. Instead of playing imaginative games, they were all sitting separately, staring at devices. How long before it reaches everyone? At the current rate, maybe 5 years before most of human culture disappears. 10 years before it's completely gone. The infection spreads faster in connected societies. Social media and global communication help it move from person to person. And the Guardians can stop this? Henry nodded. Each protected site acts like a cure. The quantum technology the custodians gave us creates a field that blocks the eraser's influence. People who spend time near Guardian sites remember why beauty and creativity matter. But there are only 10,000 Guardians worldwide. That's not enough for the whole planet. That's exactly right. Which is why we need you. Henry led Keanu to a section of the room he hadn't seen before. Here, the walls showed a 3-dimensional map of Earth. Thousands of tiny lights marked Guardian sites, but there were huge dark areas with no protection at all. Each Guardian can only protect a small area. A school, a library, a museum, a park. But if we had someone who could coordinate all the Guardians, connect them into a network, we could create a protection field that covers much more territory. AO. Network? Keanu studied the map. Like linking all the Guardians together? Exactly. The custodians have the technology to do it, but they need a human coordinator. Someone who understands both the importance of human culture and the complexity of human society. Henry touched the map, and the scattered lights began to connect with thin lines. As the network formed, the protected areas grew larger, covering more and more of the planet. This is what we could achieve with a Prime Guardian coordinating the network. Instead of 10,000 separate small safe zones, we would have a connected system that could protect entire continents. Keanu felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Why me, though? There must be other people who care about culture and have leadership experience. There are, Henry admitted. But the custodians have been studying humans for over a century. They understand that good intentions aren't enough. They need someone who has proven over and over again that they will choose to help others even when it costs them personally. Henry activated another screen. This one showed scenes from Keanu's own life. Giving up movie roles to spend more time with family, quietly paying for medical treatments for crew members who couldn't afford them, taking pay cuts so other actors could be hired, giving away most of his wealth to charities. The custodians don't just want someone who says they care about others. They want someone who has spent decades proving it through their actions. Someone who understands that real power means having the ability to help people who can't help themselves. Keanu watched himself on the screen, seeing his life from an outside perspective. He had never thought of his choices as special. He had just tried to be decent to people. What would happen to me if I accept? You said the Guardians aren't entirely human anymore. The enhancement process is different for a Prime Guardian. You would retain your humanity, but gain abilities that let you communicate with and coordinate all the other Guardians. Your aging would slow down dramatically. Your mind would be connected to the network. Would I still be me? Henry smiled. Look at me, Keanu. I've been enhanced for 55 years. Am I still the same person you remember from high school? Keanu thought about it. Henry was definitely still the kind, dedicated man he remembered. The person who knew every student's name and always had time to help. The enhancement had made him stronger and longer lived, but it hadn't changed who he was inside. The custodians don't change people, Henry explained. They just give us the tools we need to do the work we're already committed to doing. You've been protecting human dignity and kindness your whole life. This would just let you do it on a bigger scale. What about the other Guardians? What are they like? Henry activated screens showing Guardians around the world. Keanu saw an elderly woman in Tokyo carefully tending a garden at a shrine. A middle-aged man in Cairo organizing ancient texts in a library. A grandmother in Mexico City teaching children traditional songs. They're all like us, Henry said. People who spent their lives taking care of others and preserving important things. The custodians look for dedication, humility, and genuine care for others. They don't want heroes or warriors. They want servants. And if we fail? If the erasers win? Henry's expression became grave. Then humanity joins the long list of civilizations that chose survival over meaning. People will live, but they won't truly be alive anymore. They'll work, eat, sleep, and reproduce, but they'll never again create something beautiful just because it brings joy. Keanu looked at the map of Earth with its scattered lights fighting against the growing darkness. He thought about all the art, music, stories, and dreams that would be lost if those lights went out. When do I need to decide? Tonight, Henry said quietly. The erasers have detected our Guardian network. They're preparing to launch a full assault on human culture. We have maybe hours before they begin the final phase of their attack. Hours? I'm sorry, Keanu. I wanted to give you more time, but events are moving faster than we expected. The choice has to be made now. Keanu looked one more time at the screens showing the Guardians around the world. Ordinary people doing extraordinary work. Invisible heroes keeping the light of human creativity burning in a universe that seemed determined to snuff it out. If I say yes, what happens next? Then we begin the fight for humanity's soul, Henry replied, and we pray that 10,000 Guardians and one Prime Guardian are enough to save everything that makes life worth living. Keanu sat in the underground room for a long time, staring at the screens that showed Guardians around the world. Each one was a person who had given up a normal life to protect something precious. He thought about his own life, all the choices, he had made all the times he had tried to help others. "I need to see something first," he said to Henry. "I need to understand what I'm really choosing." Henry nodded. "What do you want to see?" "Show me what happens if I say no. Show me what Earth looks like if the erasers win." Henry hesitated. "Are you sure? These images are difficult to watch. I need to know." Henry touched a control panel, and the screens changed. They showed the same dead planets from before, but now Keanu could see them in more detail. Cities that looked like Earth cities, but empty of life and color. People walking through streets like robots, never looking up, never smiling, never stopping to talk to each other. "This was called Varen," Henry explained, pointing to one screen. "It was a lot like Earth. They had music, art, literature. They had festivals and celebrations. The erasers took 3 years to completely drain their culture." Keanu watched people on Varen going through the motions of life without any joy or curiosity. They worked, ate, and slept, but they never played, never created, never wondered about anything beyond their immediate needs. "They're still alive," Keanu said quietly. "Yes, but look at their faces. Look at their eyes. They're empty inside. They've forgotten how to feel wonder or joy or even sadness. They exist, but they don't really live." The next screen showed another world. This one looked more advanced than Earth, with tall silver buildings and flying vehicles. But the people were the same, empty, purposeless, going through the motions of existence without meaning. "How many worlds have they done this to?" Keanu asked. 17 that we know of, and they're getting faster at it. What took them decades on the first worlds, they can now do in just a few years. Keanu closed his eyes, trying to imagine Earth like this, trying to picture his friends, his family, everyone he had ever met walking around with empty eyes and no interest in anything beautiful or meaningful. "Show me what happens if we fight back," he said. "Show me what Earth could look like with the Guardian network." Henry smiled and changed the screens again. Now they showed Earth, but it was brighter somehow. People in the streets were talking to each other, laughing, stopping to watch street performers. Museums were full of visitors who actually looked at the art. Libraries were busy with people reading books for pleasure, not just work. "This is what we're fighting for," Henry said. "A world where people remember that life is about more than just surviving, where they create and explore and dream because those things make existence worth living." Keanu stood up and walked closer to the screens. He could see children playing imaginative games in playgrounds, teenagers learning to play musical instruments, adults taking art classes and writing stories, old people sharing memories and wisdom with younger generations. "It's not just about saving culture," he realized. "It's about saving what makes us human." "Now you understand," Henry said. "The erasers don't just want to destroy our art and music. They want to destroy our capacity for wonder, for curiosity, for creating something beautiful just because we can." Keanu turned away from the screens and looked at Henry. The old janitor was watching him with patient, kind eyes. The same eyes that had comforted scared teenagers and encouraged dreams decades ago. "If I become the Prime Guardian, what exactly would I have to do?" "You would be the coordinator for all the Guardian sites on Earth. You would be able to communicate with every Guardian instantly, no matter where they are. You would help them work together to create the largest possible protected zones." "And the transformation? What would that feel like?" Henry walked over to a wall panel that Keanu hadn't noticed before. When Henry touched it, the panel opened, to reveal a chamber filled with soft blue light. "The process takes about an hour. You would go into that chamber, and the custodian technology would enhance your body and mind. You would emerge stronger, healthier, and connected to the Guardian network. But you would still be you, Keanu. Still the same person who chooses kindness over cruelty, who helps others even when no one is watching." Keanu looked at the chamber. It didn't look scary or dangerous. It looked peaceful, like a place where someone could rest and heal. "Have you ever regretted it?" he asked Henry. "Becoming a Guardian?" Henry thought for a moment. "I've missed some things. I never got married, never had children of my own, but I've watched thousands of students grow up and find their paths in life. I've helped preserve something that matters more than any individual life. I've been part of something bigger than myself. What about fear? Are you afraid of the erasers? Every day, Henry admitted. But I'm more afraid of what happens if we don't fight them. I'm afraid of a world where no one ever again looks at a sunset and thinks it's beautiful, where no one ever writes a poem or sings a song just because it makes them happy. Keanu walked around the chamber, studying it from every angle. How do I know I'm strong enough for this? How do I know I won't fail? You don't, Henry said simply. None of us do. But strength isn't about being certain you'll succeed. It's about choosing to try, even when you're afraid, because the alternative is unacceptable. Above them, alarms began to sound. The screens around the room flashed red, and Henry quickly moved to the control panels. What's happening? Keanu asked. The erasers have begun their assault, Henry said, his voice tight with worry. They're attacking Guardian sites around the world, look. The screens showed Guardians under attack. Not physical attacks, but something worse. Keanu watched as the protected areas around Guardian sites began to shrink. The quantum fields that kept the erasers' influence away were being overwhelmed. How long do we have? Keanu asked. Maybe an hour before they break through our defenses completely. After that, the infection will spread across the entire planet in days. Keanu looked at the chamber, then at the screens showing the failing Guardian sites, then at Henry, who was trying to coordinate the defense from his control panel. If I do this, if I become the Prime Guardian, can we stop them? I don't know, Henry said honestly. But without you, we definitely can't. We need someone to coordinate the network, to help the Guardians work together. Without that coordination, we're just isolated points of light in a growing darkness. More alarms sounded. The screens showed more Guardian sites failing. Keanu could see the terror in the eyes of Guardians around the world as they realized their individual efforts weren't enough. There's something else, Henry said quietly. Something I haven't told you yet. What? The transformation is permanent. Once you become a Prime Guardian, you can never go back to being a normal human. Your life will be tied to the network forever. As long as there are Guardians, you'll be responsible for them. Keanu looked at the chamber one more time. He thought about his quiet life, his privacy, his freedom to choose his own path. Then he thought about the empty eyes of the people on those dead worlds. He thought about children who would never again play pretend games or draw pictures just for fun. Will it hurt? He asked. No, Henry said gently. It's like falling asleep and waking up as a better version of yourself. Keanu walked to the chamber and put his hand on the entrance. The blue light felt warm against his skin. I have one condition, he said. What's that? After this is over, after we save Earth's culture, I want to come back here sometimes. I want to help you clean this school. I want to remember what it feels like to do simple, humble work that matters. Henry smiled, and for a moment he looked exactly like the kind janitor Keanu remembered from high school. Deal, Henry said. Now let's save the world. Keanu stepped into the chamber, and the blue light surrounded him completely. The blue light filled Keanu's vision completely. He felt warm and peaceful, like floating in calm water. He could hear his heartbeat slowing down, then speeding up, then finding a new rhythm that felt stronger and steadier than before. His mind expanded, and suddenly he could sense things he had never felt before. He could feel Henry in the room outside the chamber. Not just knowing he was there, but actually feeling his presence, his worry, his hope. Then the sensation grew stronger, and he could feel other people. Lots of other people scattered all around the world. When the light faded and the chamber opened, Keanu stepped out feeling completely different. His body felt stronger and more alive than it had in decades. His mind was clearer and sharper. But most importantly, he was no longer alone in his thoughts. Welcome to the network, Henry said with a smile. How do you feel? I can feel them, Keanu said in wonder. All of them. The Guardians. They're like voices in my mind, but not voices exactly. More like presence. I know where they are and what they're doing. Henry nodded. That's the connection. You're now linked to every Guardian on Earth. You can communicate with them instantly and coordinate their efforts. Keanu closed his eyes and focused on the sensations in his mind. He could feel Maria Lopez in Mexico City, frantically trying to protect the Central Library as people around her lost interest in reading. He could sense Chen Wei in Beijing, watching in horror as visitors to the Palace Museum walked past priceless artifacts without even glancing at them. "They're struggling," Keanu said, opening his eyes. "The Eraser's attack is overwhelming them. That's why we need you to coordinate them. Alone, each Guardian can only protect a small area. But working together, connected through you, they can create much larger safe zones." Keanu looked at the screens around the room. The red warning lights were flashing faster now. More Guardian. Sights were failing every minute. He could feel the panic and desperation of Guardians around the world as they watched their life's work crumble. How do I help them? Focus on their connections to each other. Use your mind to link them together. Instead of 10,000 separate small lights, make them into one big network of light. Keanu closed his eyes again and reached out with his enhanced mind. He found Maria Lopez first, the librarian in Mexico City. In his thoughts, he spoke to her. "Maria, this is Keanu. I'm the new Prime Guardian. You're not alone anymore." He felt her surprise and relief wash through the network connection. "Prime Guardian, is it true? Can you help us?" "Yes. I'm going to connect you to other Guardians near you. Together, you'll be stronger." Keanu searched through the network and found Pedro Santos, an old man who maintained a museum in Guadalajara, about 300 miles away. Then he found Rosa Martinez, a woman who took care of an art school in Puebla. One by one, he connected them to Maria and to each others. The connections formed, something amazing happened. The small protected area around Maria's library began to grow. It reached out and touched the protected areas around Pedro's museum and Rosa's art school. The three separate zones merged into one large area that covered most of central Mexico. "It's working!" Henry shouted, watching the screens. "The network is forming!" Keanu reached out further, connecting Guardians across North America. He found Robert Kim, who protected a music school in Los Angeles, Linda Thompson, who maintained a theater in Chicago, David Brown, who cared for a historical site in Boston. As he linked them together, their individual protected zones merged into larger and larger areas. The work was exhausting, but exhilarating. Each new connection made Keanu feel more complete, like he was becoming part of something much bigger than himself. Through the network, he could experience the dedication and love that each Guardian felt for their work. He connected to James Wilson in London, who had been protecting the British Museum for 30 years. Through James, he felt the weight of centuries of human history and knowledge. He linked to Sophie Dubois in Paris, who guarded the Louvre and experienced her deep love for art and beauty. "The European network is forming," Henry reported, excitement in his voice. "Look at the coverage area." On the screens, Keanu could see large sections of Europe now glowing with protective light. The Eraser's influence was being pushed back as the connected Guardians created stronger and stronger barriers. He reached across the world to Asia, finding Guardians in Japan, China, India, and dozens of other countries. Each connection brought new sensations and experiences. He felt the ancient wisdom that Chang Wu protected at the Temple of Heaven in Beijing. He experienced the peaceful meditation that filled the mind of Yuki Tanaka as she tended gardens at a shrine in Kyoto. "The Asian network is online," Henry called out. "Africa and South America are connecting too." Keanu opened his eyes for a moment and saw the screen showing a transformed world. Instead of scattered points of light fighting against overwhelming darkness, there were now massive areas of protection covering entire continents. The network was working, but the effort was taking its toll. Keanu could feel sweat running down his face, and his hands were shaking. Coordinating thousands of minds at once was harder than anything he had ever done. "I can feel the Erasers fighting back," he said through gritted teeth. "They're trying to break the connections." "You have to hold the network together," Henry urged. "If it breaks apart now, we'll lose everything." Keanu felt the attack from the Erasers like a cold pressure in his mind. They were trying to make him forget why the network mattered. They whispered that art was pointless, that culture was a waste of time, that humans should focus only on practical survival. For a moment, he almost believed them. The network began to waver as doubt crept into his thoughts. What if they were, right? What if all this beauty and creativity was just a distraction from more important things? Then he felt something that changed everything. Through the network, he felt the love that every guardian had for their work. Maria's joy when a child discovered a favorite book, Chenwei's pride when visitors marveled at ancient art, Rosa's happiness when students created their first paintings. He felt the emotions of millions of people in the protected areas who were remembering why beauty mattered. Children playing, imagination games, teenagers writing poetry, adults visiting museums and actually seeing the art instead of just walking past it. This is what we're fighting for, Keanu said aloud, his voice growing stronger. Not just art and music, but the human capacity to find meaning and joy in life. He pushed back against the eraser's mental attack, using the combined strength of the entire Guardian network. 10,000 minds working together, all focused on the same goal, preserving what made life worth living. The cold pressure faded and the network solidified. On the screens, the protected areas stopped shrinking and began to grow again. The eraser's influence was being pushed back, contained. Defeated, we're winning, Henry said in amazement. The network is holding, the erasers are retreating, but Keanu could sense that this was just the beginning. Through the network, he could feel the erasers regrouping, preparing for a different kind of attack. They couldn't break the Guardian network with mental pressure, so they would try something else. They're changing tactics, he warned Henry. This isn't over yet. What are they going to do? Keanu focused his enhanced senses, trying to understand what the erasers were planning. What he discovered made his blood run cold. They're going to attack the Guardians directly, not through mental influence, but physically. They're going to try to destroy the Guardian sites and kill the Guardians themselves. Henry's face went pale. Can the network protect against physical attacks? I don't know, Keanu admitted. But we're about to find out. Through the network, he felt the first physical attack beginning. Somewhere in Australia, a Guardian site was under assault. Not from alien ships or energy weapons, but from something much more subtle and terrifying. The erasers had found a way to turn humans against their own culture. Through the network, Keanu felt the attack on the Guardian site in Australia. Bill Murphy, who had been protecting a small museum in Sydney for 20 years, was under assault. But the attackers weren't aliens. They were ordinary people from the neighborhood. The erasers have infected people nearby, Keanu told Henry urgently. They're turning humans into weapons against the Guardians. On the screens, they watched in horror as a crowd of people surrounded Bill's museum. The people looked normal, but their eyes were empty and cold. They carried signs saying things like, "Museums are useless," and "Art is a waste of money." They began throwing rocks at the windows. "Bill, can you hear me?" Keanu spoke through the network. "I hear you, Prime Guardian," came Bill's frightened reply. "There are about 50 people outside. They want to destroy the museum. Some of them I've known for years. They used to bring their children here for school trips." Keanu felt the panic of other Guardians as similar attacks began around the world. In Brazil, Maria's library was surrounded by people demanding it be torn down to build a parking lot. In Japan, protesters were trying to cut down the ancient trees that Yuki protected at her shrine. "How do we fight this?" Henry asked. "We can't hurt innocent people. They're not innocent anymore," Keanu said grimly. "The erasers have infected their minds completely, but they're still human underneath. Maybe we can reach them." He focused on the Guardian network and sent out a new kind of signal. Instead of just connecting the Guardians to each other, he tried to extend the protective fields outward to touch the minds of the infected attackers. In Sydney, something amazing happened. As the protective field from Bill's museum reached the crowd outside, some of the people stopped throwing rocks. They looked confused, like they were waking up from a bad dream. "It's working," Bill reported through the network. "Some of them are backing away. They look scared and confused, but they're not attacking anymore." But the victory was short-lived. The erasers fought back harder, sending more infected people to each Guardian site. For every person who woke up from the infection, 2 more arrived to take their place. "There are too many of them," Maria called out from Mexico City. "Hundreds of people are trying to break into the library. They want to burn the books." Keanu felt the strain of maintaining the network while also trying to cure the infected humans. His enhanced body was strong, but even it had limits. Sweat poured down his face as he struggled to coordinate thousands of Guardians while fighting off attacks on dozens of sites. "I need help," he gasped. "I can't do this alone." "What kind of help?" Henry asked. "The Guardians. They need to do more than just defend their sites. They need to actively spread the cure. They need to go out and touch people, wake them up from the infection. But if they leave their sites, the protection will weaken. It's a risk we have to take. If we just hide behind our barriers, the erasers will eventually overwhelm us with sheer numbers." Keanu sent out the new instructions through the network. "All Guardians, listen carefully. You need to leave your sites and make contact with the infected people. Physical contact helps break the eraser's influence. Touch them. Talk to them. Remind them of something beautiful they once loved." The response was immediate. Around the world, elderly Guardians left the safety of their protected sites and walked into crowds of hostile, infected humans. It was the bravest thing Keanu had ever seen. In Paris, Sophie Dubois walked out of the Louvre and approached a group of people who were spray painting "Art is stupid" on the walls. She was 90 years old and barely 5 feet tall, but she walked up to the biggest, angriest protester and gently took his hand. "Do you remember the first painting that made you cry?" she asked him softly. The man stopped mid-spray and stared at her. For a moment, his empty eyes flickered with confusion. Then tears began to run down his face as he remembered standing in front of a Van Gogh painting when he was 12 years old. In Tokyo, Chang-woo left his temple and sat down in the middle of a crowd of protesters. He began to meditate, radiating peace and calm. One by one, the infected people around him sat down too, remembering what it felt like to be still and quiet and thoughtful. "They're doing it," Henry said in amazement, watching the screens. "The Guardians are curing people just by being near them." But the battle was far from over. As more people were cured, the erasers sent even more infected humans to attack the Guardian sites. Keanu could feel the strain on the network as Guardians fought to protect their sites while also trying to heal the attackers. Then something unexpected happened. The people who had been cured didn't just walk away. They began helping the Guardians. In Sydney, the people Bill had healed started protecting his museum from new waves of attackers. In Mexico City, former protesters formed a human chain around Maria's library. The cure is spreading, Keanu realized. Person to person, like the infection, but in reverse. Through the network, he watched as cured humans reached out to infected ones. Parents hugged children and reminded them of bedtime stories. Teachers showed students artwork they had created together. Friends shared memories of concerts and movies that had made them laugh or cry. The tide was turning, but slowly. For every person cured, the erasers sent 10 more infected ones. Keanu felt his strength failing as he tried to coordinate the massive, complex battle happening on every continent. "I don't know how much longer I can hold the network together," he admitted. To Henry. "You have to," Henry said firmly. "Look at what's happening. Humanity is remembering how to fight for its own soul." On the screens, Keanu could see that Henry was right. The battle wasn't just between Guardians and infected humans anymore. It was between two different visions of what it meant to be human. The erasers wanted humans to be practical, efficient, and empty. But the Guardians and the people they had cured were showing that humans could be something more. In schools around the world, children who had been cured started drawing pictures and singing songs. In libraries, people began reading to each other. In museums, families gathered to look at art and talk about what it meant to them. "They're not just defending culture," Keanu said in wonder. "They're creating it. Right now, in the middle of the battle, they're making new art and new beauty." The erasers' final assault came without warning. Through the network, Keanu felt a massive mental attack directed not at the Guardian sites, but at him personally. They were trying to break his connection to the network by overloading his enhanced mind. Pain shot through his head as thousands of alien thoughts tried to convince him that his fight was pointless. The erasers showed him images of the universe, vast, empty, meaningless. They told him that art and culture were just distractions from the cold reality that life had no purpose. For a moment, Keanu almost gave in. The pain was overwhelming, and the eraser's logic seemed so reasonable. Why struggle to preserve human creativity when the universe was so big and humans were so small? Then he felt something that saved him. Through the network, he felt the love and determination of 10,000 guardians. Henry's quiet dedication to keeping one school clean for 55 years. Maria's joy in helping children discover books. Chang-Wu's peaceful commitment to preserving ancient wisdom. But more than that, he felt something new. He felt the love and creativity of millions of ordinary humans who were choosing, in this moment of crisis, to create rather than destroy, to sing rather than stay silent, to hope rather than despair. "This is why we fight," Keanu said aloud, his voice growing stronger, "not because we're important in the cosmic scale, but because we choose to make meaning anyway. Because we create beauty even when no one is watching. Because we're stubborn enough to keep caring about things that matter." He pushed back against the eraser's attack with the full force of the Guardian Network and all the humans connected to it. The combined will of millions of people who refused to give up their humanity was too strong for the aliens to overcome. The eraser's presence faded from Earth's mental space. Through the network, Keanu felt them retreating, not just from Earth, but from this entire region of space. They had been defeated not by superior weapons or technology, but by something they couldn't understand: the human refusal to stop creating beauty, even in the darkest times. As the immediate threat passed, Keanu felt the network stabilizing into something new. The Guardians were still connected, but now millions of ordinary humans were part of the network too. Teachers and students, artists and musicians, parents and children, all linked together in a global community dedicated to preserving and creating human culture. "Is it over?" Henry asked. "This battle is," Keanu replied. "But the work continues. We've proven that human culture is worth defending. Now we have to keep proving it, every day, by choosing to create and preserve and share the things that make life beautiful." He looked around the hidden room beneath his old high school, then up toward the surface where his transformation had begun. "I think it's time to get back to work. This place isn't going to clean itself." Henry smiled and handed him a mop. "Welcome to the Guardians, Prime Guardian. Let's go take care of our school." Together, the famous actor and the 94-year-old janitor walked up the stairs to clean hallways and classrooms, knowing that their simple, humble work was helping to keep the light of human creativity burning in